Getting a cancer diagnosis, it is frightening. And after reality sets in, you might start wondering, how did I get it? Well, having a strong family history of cancer, it could alter the treatment choices you make. Here to explain the connections and preventions are doctors Rashmi Waidia and Mario Pineda, along with certified genetic counselor Amanda Cass, all of them from Ironwood Cancer and Research Centers. Great to have all of you here. Dr. Waidia, I want to start with you. Can you explain and discuss the hereditary link when it comes to breast cancer syndromes?
Absolutely, Susan. 90% of breast cancer is sporadic, meaning you get it from random exposure to environmental toxins or chemicals that we are not even aware about. Only 5 to 10% of breast cancer is actually hereditary, meaning you get it because you inherited some mutation that runs in your family that can significantly increase your risk for breast cancer up to an 85%.
And Dr. Pineda, gynecological cancers, are they the same when it comes to sporadic versus hereditary?
Yes, in a similar fashion, gynecologic cancers, including fallopian tube cancer, ovarian cancer, and some uterine cancers, most of them are sporadic, but about 10 to 15% can be inherited.
All right, so when we're talking about this connection, genetic testing has to be so critical. And Amanda, you do this testing prior to a cancer diagnosis. How critical is that?
So we do it prior to a cancer diagnosis or after a cancer diagnosis, actually. And it's really important because we're able to use this information to determine if someone has some kind of inherited risk for cancer. And it's a pretty non-invasive test. It's saliva or a blood sample. And from that, we're able to look at a group of genes that we were all born with, males and females, that are essentially supposed to protect us from cancer. So if we identify something that we know causes that gene to not work properly, then we know that someone has some kind of inherited risk.
All right, so specifically talking about breast cancer, Dr. Waidia, when we get that diagnosis, we're terrified. But we may not know our family history.
That's right.
We may not know that an aunt or someone down the line had it.
That's right. And it's very important to find this out because it may not just be breast or ovarian, it could be other cancers like uterine cancer, sometimes colon cancers. So what you need to know is if your family or your mom or your dad's side had clusters of cancers spanning several generations. And that should trigger a consult with a genetic counselor, come and see a breast surgeon or a gynecological oncologist to figure out what your risk is. And how do you then manage the risk? That's the big part.
Right, how do we manage it? How do we prevent it even?
Right.
You know, for ovarian cancer, every patient who's diagnosed with ovarian or fallopian tube cancer should actually be referred for genetic testing to see if there's a genetic predisposition because that cancer is so rare in the general population. But in terms of managing the risks, once a patient is diagnosed with a genetic predisposition, there are kind of three things we think about. The first is chemoprevention, or taking something that we can decrease the risk orally. Here, for most people, birth control pills. Other is high-risk screening. Screening for patients in the general population for ovarian cancer doesn't really work. We haven't shown improvements in survival. But in high-risk patients, like patients that have genetic predispositions, we think that we may actually be able to impact these patients' lives and intervene at a time that we make a difference in survival.
And the best part is you do it all.
Exactly,
you guys do it all. All right, let's give you some information. Ironwood Cancer and Research Centers, they have 9 Valley locations for your convenience. To book an appointment, 480-821-2838 or visit their website, ironwoodcrc.com.